you're not able to do what you thought you were going to be able to do. The life plan you set yourself has suddenly gone in a completely different direction, and coming to terms with that, Tamar, is something you can speak to.
So yes, the grief cycle is likely what's going on, grieving what you thought you have, grieving what you wanted, like you say, the life plan that you had.
Hello, and welcome to Moving Through Menopause. And here today I have members of the Menopause Collective. We are chatting all about premature menopause today. And so don't forget to join us in our Facebook group, Moving Through Menopause. The Menopause Collective will be there to help you, to guide you, to inform you. Without further ado, let me welcome today Tamar, our resident counsellor, and Claire, our natural medicine woman. And me, Philippa, of course. I'm your physiotherapist and movement guru. I use that word loosely. I'm very happy to have you here, Claire, because I know that you can speak to this topic from your own personal experience. And that's always valuable, isn't it? That we can, share our stories and our life experiences. It's not essential that we've lived through it, but you make no secret of the fact that this was your experience. So
it was, yes, Philippa. Thanks for saying I make no secret of the fact. I go around with a large T-shirt saying, I've survived, I've done it. And people are surprised all the time. In fact, I had somebody yesterday say to me, I can't believe you've been through menopause already. And it's like, yep, 5 years ago now is when I started my menopause journey. So I'm through the other side. And it was an experience that I would never like to repeat, put it that way.
Have you worked out whether that's different to when it just kind of happens on its own? Are there differences?
I would say, well, mine was a surgical menopause, so it basically was overnight. So it was like you were going from one situation to another with no gentle fade in or fade out. And I would say that is very different. Yes, because it's a real shock to the body having anything removed. I personally needed to get mine taken out and had to fight a very long battle to get that to happen. And the argument used against me time and again was, but you're going to go through menopause early. We don't want you to go through menopause early. You're going to go 10 years earlier than you would have done naturally. And I was like, well, that may be so, but the position I'm in, the pain, the heavy periods, like literally the constant pain, the mood swings, I had a womb prolapse, all of that. It was, the best thing I could have done. And I had to just keep fighting for that and saying, this is what I want. This is what I want. And they were saying, because I've got Ehlers-Danlos as well, they were saying, oh, you're at risk of osteoporosis more than the average person, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I have to live my life and I can't actually function at the moment. So can you just please take it out? And when they did, they were like, oh, yes, Mrs. Ottewell, it's all scarred and covered in fibroids and da, da, da. And I was like, well, there was a reason why there was so much pain going on. It wasn't just in my head, but it is a personal choice.
Yeah, it is a personal choice, undoubtedly. Let's just take a step back and ask the question, or answer the question, perhaps, what is premature menopause? Well, Claire's kind of alluded to the fact that, the name is in the title, happening sooner than it would naturally, in inverted commas. And so before the age of 40 is considered premature, if it's happening naturally to you, that is, before the age of 40. And there's different kind of terminology used. Primary ovarian insufficiency. And what was the other one I said, Tamar, that I've just immediately forgotten?
I can't remember, but it enraged me. It was like geriatric pregnancy, but something else.
Yeah, failure. So insufficiencies are kind of a more accurate description, really, I suppose. You've run out of eggs. Maybe.
Very negative, though, isn't it?
And it's very judgy. And anyone that does that has that happen to them, it's a really difficult thing to get through. That kind of, you do feel that you're less of a woman. There's that whole psychological aspect to it. And if you've held off having children and then you come to having children and you haven't got any eggs left to have children, the devastation of the fact that, you've you're not able to do what you thought you were going to be able to do. The life plan you set yourself has suddenly gone in a completely different direction, and coming to terms with that, Tamar, is something you can speak to. The
Yeah.
mental side of that is really big, isn't it?
What would be the grieving process? You're grieving the loss of the life you thought you had. But I think a lot of this is going to be generational, because we're seeing the younger generation are now choosing to be childless because of the world that we live in, and they either don't want to bring kids into it, or actually they've got quite a nice life and that's just not what they want for themselves. And it seems to be there's more of that going on. So with generations that might change, but certainly for our generation, it was kind of, it's the thing that you do. Of course you're going to have children, and it was very rare and unusual not to. So yes, the grief cycle is likely what's going on, grieving what you thought you have, grieving what you wanted, like you say, the life plan that you had.
Yeah, you can't underestimate, really, can you, the impact of life being taken out of your hands. And it may even be that wasn't on your list of things to do, but suddenly the fact that you can't do it really can have a profound effect. So we mustn't underestimate the psychological and emotional ramifications of a premature menopause occurring naturally, if you like, before the scheduled appointment. And then, of course, other reasons why it might happen, as Claire has spoken to, the surgical interventions that women experience. Removing the womb and preserving the ovaries, eventually they will fail. So it's a slightly more gradual than if you remove the ovaries, the oophorectomy procedure. And then, of course, chemically, treatments that we might have as a result of breast cancers, radiotherapy, drug treatments. There's lots of different reasons why this is happening. And if you think about the fact that women are having this menopause as a consequence of treatments for breast cancer, I mean, that's a whole double whammy going on right there, isn't it, Tamar?
Yeah, so I believe people with cancer get sort of counselling around that. Yeah. So you're counselling for the condition that you're struggling with or battling, or, the potential life-threatening disease, plus you've then got this choice being taken out of your hands about a whole bigger thing in your life that's not really related to the illness, but, it's just layer upon layer, and the impact that has on relationships, because perhaps your partner really, really wanted kids. So then you've got a relationship issue happening as well. There's layers of stuff. It's never just sort of one thing, is it?
No, we're back to peeling the onion, aren't we? So, yeah, and what Claire said, the fact that surgical removal means menopause overnight, and that is a totally different experience for women. Having a gradual withdrawal, albeit has its own challenges. There's no doubt that fluctuating hormonal levels bring their own challenges, but that sudden withdrawal of estrogen from the system has a more marked effect, sort of physically and psychologically. Claire, I know you've spoken about sort of suddenly drying up overnight. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, talk about hot sweats. I had an ovectomy as well a year later because I knew I needed that. But yeah, the hot sweats were immediate, and it wasn't like a subtle, gentle hot sweat. It was like, you're gonna sweat through the duvets, through the mattress. You are literally going to soak. You're going to create your own tidal wave within the bedroom. So that was horrible. But I went through it in a matter of, weeks and months rather than years. The wisening, drying up process, which made me feel really old. And indeed in my joints, I really felt it. I got a lot more joint pain, and my knees are more sensitive and all this kind of thing. So that wasn't much fun. You just land up feeling an awful lot frailer. It's like you've got into a kind of an aging machine really, really quickly. And HRT was the difference. So I had to take HRT from the beginning, and I took HRT up until this year to mitigate those experiences, and it really did help. And so I think that, it's good if you can take it, but obviously if you've had cancer, especially breast cancer or something like that, you can't have HRT. So you have to find more natural ways to recreate that experience in the body. And there are ways, you can do it with certain foods and vitamins and things like that, supplements. So it's not, all is not lost.
No.
But yeah, it was certainly dramatic, and it's taken me a number of years. And if I look at photos of myself then to photos of myself now, I generally look younger now than I did when I was going through the menopause. Not necessarily today, but in general, like looking.
You look young. You're very young.
So, and that's why people are surprised. They're like, oh, I wouldn't have imagined that you've been through the menopause, but I can definitely tell I have been through the menopause. But with that comes all the wisdom that we like to talk about. I say that's really, really important. And the menopause is a waking up time. It's a time of no more apology for not doing the job you want to do, the relationship you want to do, all this kind of stuff. So it's a real kind of culmination of a coming to your true self. So if you think of it more like that.
Yeah, I think that is a big part of this whole experience that I'm increasingly being convinced by, that how we think we feel, and that, it might mean that we need help to get to that place of acceptance, and then, as you say, embracing the potential benefits of no longer having periods, etc., the wisdom that could potentially, this space in your life for other things that might just come as a result of that. So that is important, isn't it, to maybe have help sometimes, Tamar, to navigate these times of fluctuation or change, or, and menopause is just this one big change.
Yeah, there's a big difference, I think, as we've already alluded to, between, although we're not taught about menopause when we talk about periods, and I think that's something that ought to change, there's something around, you kind of know it's on the horizon around this sort of age, but when it's not expected and it's not planned, even if you've elected for the surgery, this still wasn't part of the plan to go through the menopause at this, and like you say, that's slamming into it straight away. I mean, I equate it to when I had my son and had to be induced, and instead of the slow build up, it was 0 to 60 in the pain, and it was like, I can't cope with this because I haven't had the build up. So it's about adjusting to the new timeline, processing that, accepting it, and then embracing all the good stuff that we talk about, the liberation and all that. But like we say, with the onion of the relationships and the changing dynamics and the changing plan, and it can take people a while to get used to that and get on board with the new plan. And I think the crux of it is that I have no control here. My choice has been taken. So even if you've chosen the operation or, chosen the medical treatment, you didn't choose this part. And this is not, this wasn't what I wanted necessarily.
No. And, the other thing, of course, that can happen with younger women is that for a long time, things are not right they don't feel right, or whatever, periods are not right, things are not right. But that somehow there can be a really protracted period of time when they're not being diagnosed as prematurely menopausal. And so that, you're also dealing with a bit of a sort of internal wrangle with what's going on in your body, and then this external wrangle with people who are not necessarily taking you seriously or believing you. And I was only listening to the radio today where they're talking about the postcode lottery in healthcare that is alive and kicking. Sadly, that your experience in your own medical surgery could be entirely different to somebody else's, in a different part of the country. And that's sad and wrong, but true. So, the idea that premature menopause, you would have hopefully screening blood tests to evaluate the levels of your hormones. The ideal time to have the tests apparently is somewhere in the cycle between day 2 and day 5 of your cycle. I mean, if your cycle's all over the map, then that can be hard to pinpoint too. Getting the care that you need can just sometimes be a bit of a struggle. The good news is that there is so much information available now, and so go armed with something off the internet. Truthfully, I no longer care I think a lot of doctors actually, somebody said to me the other day, he started to Google while I was in the middle of the consultation. Well, do you know what? They were not impressed by that. But actually, I think, well, do you know what? Who in the heck can know everything? Not me. So, if your doctor's willing to be vulnerable in front of you and go to the computer and look something up, then I think, good for them, because it's them sort of admitting that potentially there's something they don't know or fully understand, and then maybe you will actually get the care that you need. I mean, this can be a hard journey on so many levels, with symptoms, struggling with symptoms, and prematurely, when you're not getting the help that you need, that can be, again, quite difficult. But it is important for women to get this help. Like Claire said, I know of people who've had surgical removal and not been offered HRT from the get-go, and not even realise that perhaps would have been appropriate. Yeah, so, to have as much as we can this knowledge for ourselves of our own bodies, what we should expect when it's all running tickety-boo, and what might be as showing us when things are going a little awry, and then, that when we go to get help, that we are armed with the information of what should actually be happening for us to help us, and what we should expect to get as a remedy to whatever is happening to us. And then, of course, helping ourselves. We don't expect that any one person has the magical, well, apart from Claire, of course, with the magic.
Oh, yeah, I've got the magic. Yeah, that's true.
You've got the magic. I've got the movement magic. Tamar, you've got the mind magic. So we're full of magic, actually.
Brought to mind of all the three fairies. Was it Cinderella with the three magic fairies?
Yeah, the three nice ones. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be us, of course, in this situation.
I was just saying, but not forgetting that unless it is a natural menopause, with all the other things, that this woman's already been through a battle, either battling cancer or the constant pain. You've already been through that and probably had to fight a little bit for your care. Yeah. And then this comes along. It's another thing, isn't it? And I think I saw an article the other day that they're now going to be teaching women's healthcare to medical trainees.
Hooray!
But we are different, because all medicines are based on men. I think a lot of the medicines are based on white men. So then they're not right for anybody else. Well, the white men is one group. All medication, all the diagnosis, we know with the autism, that's all based on boys. So now there's a lot of female autism coming up because it was never part of the diagnosis. So it's good news, but it's 2022. Why is this only just happening?
Yeah. The fact that they've just got the first female skeleton in medical schools not long ago, Yeah, that's it. So
they're underrepresented in the medical field. So no wonder the GP's Googling, because I think the last I heard was Menopause was an online module that was optional for, is it GPs? Is the thing I heard. I think it was on the documentary that Davina did.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're trying to bring more in, but again, I don't know how consistent that's going to be across the
country. I mean, historically, there would be somebody in a general practice who had a particular interest in women's health, a doctor, but quite often now it's the practice nurses, isn't it, who are taking more of a lead in these kinds of roles, screenings, bloods and prescribing actually as well. So, it might be that it takes a few professionals, and, Claire will know this, if you've had struggles to get, yourself heard, it might be that you go through a few before you get to the one. And so this is why we really care to help ourselves, isn't it? And all the things that you can do. We know that from a nutritional standpoint, there's lots we can do. Water, you mentioned drying out, Claire. Water, obviously, increasing we're all walking around in a state of dehydration to varying degrees. So lots of water. And
I'm not. But
Claire's not. She's drinking lots of water.
Here we go.
This is when we hold up the herbal tea. There we go, or the water, whatever. So take action. Just don't settle. Don't settle. Really, no.
Trust your instincts, basically. If you know there's something wrong, it wasn't there before, things are changing, you feel that there's something going on, don't give up, because you are right. You are the best expert on your own body. One size does not fit all. So you might have to try a few patches on, or take a few pills, or try a few creams, or try a few GPs. Just keep going though, because you are right about yourself and you deserve the care that you need. But unfortunately, as Philippa says, you have to bone up and become a bit of an expert so that you know the right questions to ask. And as Tamar says, you have to fortify yourself perhaps with counselling support to keep on fighting for yourself, because it is absolutely exhausting. I just want to put in a note about the fact that because premature menopause does see you possibly aging before your contemporaries, try and find the beauty in the more experienced face, the whiter hair, the silver streaks. Try and see that as a capping of wisdom, and not pay attention to all of these ridiculous, expensive, pointless procedures to iron out your experience and your wisdom, so that in the end we all look like androgynous models. It's like, you know, who are you? Pay some heed to that and know that your character shines through. So, you know, and you want your face to move, not be able to move at all. So, you know, and you have things to keep yourself looking younger, absolutely, but just kind of, you know, don't just see it as a crowning. That's what I want.
Well, on that very, very positive note, I think we will call a halt to proceedings, and only to say that you can get more of this, more of us in our Facebook group, Moving Through Menopause. We are there to support, and also not just us, but there's other people who you can chat with as well. So come along and join us there. And thank you so much, ladies, for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.